Well, thanks very much for having me here today. My name is Sonya Ferrera, and I'm one of the staff at the Department of Justice with the CyberScan unit. So I wanted to talk briefly today about the issue of cyberbullying, the sharing of intimate images, cyber safety, and the work that we do at the Department of Justice. So just in terms of the internet, we know, it's a network of networks. It's global, meaning that you can access it basically anywhere in the world. And, really it does offer a lot of different advantages and disadvantages. So in terms of advantages, people use it to chat with family and friends, learn new things and watch videos. Really easy to use, as mentioned. I don't know how many people might have a 2-year-old and they can pick up an iPhone or an iPad and they can navigate around it. And of course, people use it to play games and have fun. So it's really exciting times that you can, do so much research. It's, you can see things in real time and so on. Unfortunately, the internet is only as good as the people that use it, and there is a dark side to the internet. So it is a place, where people can betray your trust. There is access to anything. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of inappropriate content out there, a lot of, for example, pornography. Children are exposed to that at younger ages. It is accessible by anyone, so by that I mean, anybody can access it, anybody can create a fake account, and that unfortunately leaves people open to exploitation, so it can be very targeted. So in terms of that, what I mean is that there's sexual predators online. They of course target different social media sites that kids are on. You have people targeting other people for financial information and so on. Also, you have to remember when you're using the internet that once you hit send, you really have no control over where your message, your photo, or your post can end up. And I think people are finally starting to get that. So even if you're having a private message between a friend, if you're sending them a text, that text could really be sent on to other people. It can be posted. And so you really have to be careful about what you do and say, because anytime you do use the internet, of course, there is always, you do lose a bit of your privacy. So unfortunately, the dark side of that is that it is a place that can dismantle self-esteem. There's a risk for legal issues if it's used improperly. And basically, it's a place that can cause a lot of damage if it's not used appropriately. I always say, too, that, with the internet, you have access to the world, but the world also has access to you. So you just have to remember that. Now, in terms of intimate images, what is an intimate image? Well, an intimate image basically is a visual recording of a person. It's also a photo in which the person depicted in the image is nude, is exposing the person's genital organs, anal region, or in case of female, her breasts, or is engaged in explicit sexual activity. Now, why do people do it? It's actually a lot more common than what you might think. Some people, what we're hearing, they do it as a joke, or maybe it was a dare, or they're in a romantic relationship. It could be also that someone pressured someone to send a photo. It could be, we have cases where images are obtained where the person is unaware. So for example, they're intoxicated at a party or maybe changing in a locker room and someone took a picture. Also, in terms of, we get a lot of calls as well, even from people, youth and adults, that you're on Instagram and someone just randomly messaged you and asks you, will you send me a picture? So basically, it's not if you will be asked for a picture, it's when. So I think, and I'll get into that a little later, it's really important for you to have conversations with your child about these kind of things, because you want them to be prepared to be able to deal with that when it does happen. So also requests from girlfriends or boyfriends, and just really giving that educational piece that it is important for you to keep your clothes on when you are taking a photo or a video of yourself. But we also know that people, it does happen, and we're a place that you can call if you do need assistance with getting a photo removed, or if there's, you had any questions with regard to that. So in terms of social repercussions, you have to think if that photo ever gets released, it's very embarrassing. That person, has betrayed your trust and so on. And in terms of legal consequences, of course, if you're a child, Any sexually explicit material, whether that's an image or video of a person under 18 years old, having it, sending it, and even just looking at it can be a crime. Also, in 2015, a new offense came into effect, which made it illegal. So even between adults, if you decide to share photos, you can take a photo and send it, but the person who receives that photo is not allowed to distribute that to other people without the other person's express consent. So and that criminal code offense can also be applied to young people as well. So again, there's just very social and legal repercussions when it comes to the sharing of intimate images. So to give you a brief history here in Nova Scotia, of course, as Dr. McKay mentioned, in 2013, Nova Scotia passed the Cyber Safety Act. So what that was, it was a civil piece of legislation. So it gave people an option. Instead of going to the police, they could actually come to someone in government to help them with these kind of issues. And it came at a time when there was a lot of public outrage over the absence of appropriate legislation on this issue. So government did really feel the need to respond. And Nova Scotia actually was the first province in Canada to have the cyber safety legislation. And I think we should be really proud of that. I think even within North America, we were the first place to actually have some kind of formalized legislation to deal with that issue. So our unit, the CyberScan unit, was established in September 2013. As mentioned, we did go until December 2015. During that time, we had 825 cases, and only 10 of them went to court. So the majority of our files that we dealt with were dealt with through informal means. So by that I mean, we provided advice, we helped people get posts removed, we provided mediation, and I really don't see our role changing under this new legislation. So unfortunately, in December of 2015, so it was about 2.5 years later, the Cyber Safety Act was struck down by the Nova Scotia Supreme Court on a constitutional challenge. Now, in the meantime, in March 2015, as I mentioned, a federal statute was passed where sexual images shared without consent is a criminal code offense. So we found when we first started, we were getting a ton of calls on intimate images and them being shared and so on, and that was something that we did assist people with. However, the act did get struck down. Government knew that it was still an issue for Nova Scotians. They went back to the drawing board. They consulted again with various people in the field, stakeholders, and in July of 2018, the new Intimate Images and Cyber Protection Act came into effect. And basically, again, it provides a civil remedy to deter, prevent, and respond to cyberbullying and the distribution of intimate images. And so again, this process is outside the criminal process, and it's through our office and then also a court for private disputes. So we have two key elements of the Act, and that is that we deal with cyberbullying and we deal with the distribution of intimate images without consent. And I think that this Act really does balance that freedom of expression with preventing people from being harmed by malicious postings. And so it may be the first place that you want to call if you are having an issue. It is free. We're located in Halifax, but we do travel around the province, and it's confidential. So we don't do anything that you're not comfortable with. And of course, we work very closely with the schools in resolving complaints. And we also work closely with the police. So sometimes the police refer cases to us, and then sometimes if we're talking to someone and say, you know what, this really has a criminal element to it, you may want to contact the police. We can help them with that process as well. So in terms of cyberbullying, if you were interested in the actual legal definition, it is now defined as electronic communication, direct or indirect, that causes or is likely to cause harm to another individual's health or well-being, where the person responsible for the communication maliciously intended to cause harm to another individual's health or well-being, or was reckless with regard to the risk of harm to another individual's health or well-being. So this provides for it's more narrow definition than when compared to the previous Cyber Safety Act definition. So the kind of things that I'm talking about here are really harassing comments, communications that encourage or incite another person to commit suicide, making a false allegation, threats, intimidation, or menacing conduct. So basically, who can help? You can give CyberScan a call, and we're there to advise, assist, and help resolve disputes. And I know under our previous legislation, the youngest person to contact our office was 10, and the oldest person was in his 80s. Because again, cyberbullying happens to everyone. You know, it doesn't matter what age you are or what part of the province that you're in. So again, we're there to assist, advise, assist, and help resolve disputes. And how do we do that? Well, basically we're there to help people understand what their options are and navigate the justice system. So we're there to offer voluntary dispute resolution services, including advice, negotiation, mediation, and restorative justice approaches to respondents in addition to victims. So some of the things, we can contact the person who distributed the internet image without consent or engaged in the cyberbullying. You know, we can explain the process and attempt to mediate the process informally. You know, I find a lot of our work is really getting a post removed, getting something removed from a particular site. And I really, like I said, I see that really still being a big part of our job. Also, we do provide public information and education regarding harmful and online content. And that was a big part of our job previously, and it will continue to be a big part of our job now. I know since 2013, we had how many presentations? Was it 1,000 presentations with at least 27,000 students. So we will continue that role. And again, just providing support and assistance to victims, and again, to remember that it is voluntary, so we don't, do anything that you're not comfortable with. Now, if we're not able to resolve the concern, of course, people can go before the court to apply for one of these cyber protection orders. And basically, that would be you're applying to the court, you're providing your evidence, and the judge is deciding how he or she can help. And some of the things is an order can be created which prohibits the other person from distributing the image. An order can actually, a court order can be sent where the post would have to be taken down. It can prohibit contact from one person to the other. It can declare that an image is an intimate image. It can refer the matter to dispute resolution, and it can also order the person to pay damages to the person depicted in the intimate image or the victim of the cyberbullying. So when it comes to that, I know previously our office would take that forward. Now it is up to the person to do that. But again, we would provide assistance in that. And I know that also we partner with the Legal Information Society of Nova Scotia, and they will provide some free legal advice around that. Also, in terms of, I know to file one of these orders, I think it's around $225. If people can't pay, I know the department is looking into ways that we can help that. So we're just going to look at it from a case-to-case basis. We're there to help. And any call that comes in, we're going to look at it individually and going to do as much as we can to help that person. In terms of keeping identity private, as mentioned, basically if it comes to a youth and if it did have to go to court, automatically a publication ban is in effect and the pseudonym would be used. When it comes to a case of an adult, people can apply for that, and basically they would have to check that request off on the form. That's just our unit there. I wanted to leave that up, and I also have left some information down at the back, but I did just want to quickly show this slide as well. This is just different Canadian sites that I like to go to and look at. I find them very useful in terms of finding out different trends and different things that's happening, just to kind of keep us up to date. And just in closing, I just wanted to mention, when it comes to parents and youth, that it's very important for youth to have conversations with young people in terms of how to protect yourself online and the importance of using privacy settings and so on. Talk about the issue of cyberbullying and the social and legal repercussions of sending naked pictures, and make sure, most importantly, that your child knows that they can come to you or another trusted adult if they do have an issue. And just to know that as well, our unit We do offer presentations for parents, we offer presentations to schools and students, community groups, we've done them for senior citizens. So basically any group that calls us, if they did want some information on cyber safety tips and things like that, that's something that we certainly would put together and come to the group and tailor that to that particular need. So again, thank you very much, and I look forward to some questions.